You're listening to the Virtually Free Podcast, a place for all you digital nomads and freedom chasers out there get the real talk on what it's like to make a living online. Want to ditch the 9-to-5, vacation on your terms, discover the ins and outs of freelancing? Then you're in the right place. And now your host, Amy Damone.
Welcome back to episode 5 of the Virtually Free Podcast. Today's guest is Erica Lerman. Erica has a passion for digital marketing. After 10 years of marketing for small and medium-sized businesses, she started her own business as a way to help entrepreneurs and small business owners take control of their digital presence, show the world just how awesome their product or service is, and reach their profit potential. Today's episode, we're going to be jamming all things website, so this is definitely an episode you don't want to miss. Enjoy. Welcome to today's show, everyone, of Virtually Free. Today, I have Erica Lerman. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm super excited to talk to you. We're going to get into some juicy information all about websites. And, a lot of my audience are, newer entrepreneurs. They've maybe thought about a website. Do they need one? Do they not? So I'm really excited to jump in. So, kind of give it away a little bit, but why don't you tell the audience what type of business you're in?
Sure. I kind of run two different facets of things. My main stream of income comes from my consulting business. So I started it probably about 10 years ago now. I'm kind of dating myself, but it was really kind of a side hustle for a long time. I did marketing, like a director of marketing type roles before I left corporate, and I was doing web design on the side. And then I guess about a year and a half ago now, I decided to kind of jump in head first, do the entrepreneurial thing in completeness. So I do everything from branding and web development all the way through to marketing funnels, online advertising, really anything kind of in the digital marketing space. So I help clients, mostly small businesses. I do tend to work with a couple of medium-sized ones, but really my interest is on the small business side of things because I think it's really exciting because it's you get to see that growth with my clients, but also a lot of them just don't even know where to start. And I like that kind of the groundwork, the foundation, the process building out of the gate. So that's kind of where my interest lies. So I would consider that my 9-to-5. And then on top of that, I run Mamapreneur, which is a website, Facebook group. There's a couple of online courses available that really just kind of hone in and focus on moms who are looking to start businesses and kind of helping them with, providing them as much information as possible to get their ideas up and off the ground while raising a family, which I know can be challenging. So,
wow. So you're basically just saying that you're straight up superwoman right now.
I try to be. Yeah, I try to be. But as we were talking about earlier, my immune system is taking a beating for it. So
yes, that pesky thing. And we're both in Canada right now. I know it's very rare, and we, that Canadian weather. So, it's not the greatest.
Yeah.
But I digress. So,
we'll say lots of A's throughout the episode.
Oh my goodness, quite past me, and the boot and all that jazz. So getting back into your business. So, are you the type of entrepreneur that relies heavily on, Facebook ads, Instagram to kind of be seen? Or are you more of the word of mouth kind of referrals? Because I know from my business, most of my clients are our referrals. But yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
Sure. It's kind of dependent on which business we're talking about. So from the consulting side, I'd say it's 98% word of mouth referrals. That's not surprising because with professional service businesses, not only is the product or service that you're actually delivering important, there's a lot of interpersonal relationships that go on too. So how you deal with your clients, your project management skill, level of communication, all of those things greatly impact whether or not your client is going to be happy with what you've provided them. So those types of aspects really go hand in hand with the referral side of things. So with the consulting, for sure, it's word of mouth. With the other business, I'd say it's a lot of, I have done Facebook ads. I don't do Instagram ads. My Instagram participation is kind of when I have things to share, I'll share them. It's not the greatest. But, some word of mouth, but just trying to get it up there as far as content marketing is concerned. I use a lot of blog posts. I'm getting into YouTube videos, the podcast, all of that kind of thing. So.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited to dive deep into, this episode's topic because, from the very first time, as my very first online business, which I still very much am a VA, but it has grown into kind of a little bit more than just, the simple VA tasks. But, one of the things in all the Facebook groups I'm in is like, do you need a website? So I know you are an expert on that. So I would love to hear, from a web designer's perspective, the importance of having a website or lack thereof.
Sure. To preface the topic, I think, because I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, you design websites. Of course, you're going to say that you need a website, right? Because you're coming with your own biases. That is for sure the case. I mean, I love web design. I love, digital marketing and having that brand out there. And a lot of that is surrounding your website. That being said, when I was preparing for this podcast recording, I did try and put on other hats, and I do try, and even within my own business, try to play devil's advocate once in a while, because one, I think if you're a great service provider, you have to put those hats on every once in a while anyways, to try and come up with reasons why a client might not work with you. And so I do have some counter arguments to a couple of things, but the reality is that it's 2018. So much of our lives surround the internet, and this can go for a multitude of businesses that people run, whether it's a simple service provider, whether or not it is a e-commerce business, if you're doing infopreneur type stuff. So some of these businesses that I just listed off are going to be almost 100% online, right? If you're in an e-commerce space, 100% of what you do is going to be based on your website. The other types of businesses that are out there, like, let's say, a mechanic shop or a hair salon, those types of things, the argument could be, well, why do I need a website if people ultimately are going to come into my establishment, if they're going to interact with me on a one-on-one level? And my rationale for why it's absolutely key to have that business is because so many people are using the internet to, one, find businesses that are around them if you're a local business, and two, to find out reviews on them. So if you have a website, automatically the chances of you popping up on a search result are that much greater. And if you have your own website, you can then claim the listings a bit easier. You can have your website linked to your Google reviews profile and things like that. And I think at the end of the day, it really just shows a level of professionalism. And I don't know off the top of my head, but there's been numbers circulating for many, many years with research that's been done online, just how many people will look up to see if your business has a website, and how that influences people's decision to then buy your product or utilize your service. So.
Exactly. And it's 2018. And, as a millennial, I say this, I almost will not go into places if they don't have some sort of web presence, especially, and I know this is kind of like a weird example, but restaurants especially, if a restaurant doesn't have a website, I'm always very nervous of what kind of food they're going to be serving me. And it is 2018, we rely so much on the internet. So it's almost kind of like a very easy advantage to have if you do have a website. But, there are the abilities to rely on other types of platforms, like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, although that's kind of dying. Pinterest is making a comeback. So I would love to hear what your thoughts are on, businesses that have decided to put their focus on, their web presence in Facebook instead of an actual website.
Mm-hmm. I think with websites, the nice thing about them is that you really do control all of the aspects of your brand. So when it comes to building your homepage or, a list of your services or anything like that, you have absolute control over it, so that when somebody comes onto it, they start to recognize your logo, your colors, the feel that you want to convey. And I think this is especially important for businesses that maybe need to convey a certain type of luxury associated with them, or maybe they're a discount brand and they want to give that perception across. And that's hard to do sometimes in other platforms, not necessarily completely impossible, but it's just, if you think about a Facebook page as an example, right? You can go on there and you can post different things. Yes, you can put some pictures of your product, let's say, but ultimately when somebody sees that in their browser or on their phone, it's branded white and blue, right, for Facebook.
Yeah.
And, so that level of difference I think can be huge, especially as your business grows. The other really big thing that not a lot of people think of until it negatively affects them is that when you build your business on another platform like Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, you are beholden to their business practices. And what I mean by that is, and you see this kind of popping up, especially if you're really participating in Facebook groups and things like that, where people talk about digital marketing, is that, let's say you've built up this great rapport with this huge audience on Instagram and everything is great. And you get 200 likes per photo and you start selling products through Instagram. And the next thing you know, you wake up the next morning and all of a sudden Facebook, who owns Instagram, has changed their algorithm. And the next time you post a photo, you get a quarter of the engagement. And that has nothing to do with the quality of photos you're posting. It has nothing to do with the quality of hashtags or anything. It's just for whatever reason, Facebook has decided that they need to change the algorithm and your photo is showing up to a small fraction of what it used to. And you have no control over that. So by having things owned by you, right, in your possession, you pay for the hosting, you've set up your website, you have more control over that. That being said, there can be more difficulties when it comes to getting the website in front of people. When you're on something like Instagram, people can find you, more organically through hashtag searching and things like that. Whereas getting your eyeballs onto your website can be a bit more challenging. However, you own that entity, so that if something does happen to Facebook or Instagram or anything in the future, at least you have this stable entity as your website that you can still continue to build and drive traffic to and use as your marketing platform.
Yes, and for anyone that knows anything about Facebook, is they decide to change their algorithm, every 3-4 months these days?
Yep. And, as we've seen over the past probably, 2 or 3 years, it kind of goes in swings, right? Like in one aspect, they're pro-business because that's how they're getting their money and the businesses are paying for advertising and all this kind of stuff. And then next thing you know, the pendulum swings back to, well, we need to focus more on the user and showing them feeds from family and friends. And then even years ago, it was yes, build your business page and it's great exposure and it's free. Well, then they started introducing ads and saying, okay, well, now it's kind of a pay to play activity. So if you want to be seen, now all of a sudden you're having to fork out $100, $500, whatever it is, to run ads to your Facebook page or to your website, whatever it is that you're drawing people to. So
yeah, definitely. So I like to play a little bit of a devil's advocate though. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you a question. Could you think of any positives about not having a website?
Cost and hassle for sure. I think anytime that you decide to add an aspect to your marketing, it's going to involve an increase in complexity. That's the reality of things. And whenever I talk to clients of my own and write blog posts and things like that, the one thing I try to always reiterate is that no matter what you do, it's either going to cost you money or time. So if you have your website and you're maintaining it yourself, which is totally feasible these days, especially with WordPress and the Shopifys of the world and everything like that. If you're maintaining it yourself, that's great. It's going to cost you time. It's time that you're not spending doing other things. It's time that you're not doing the accounting for your business or finding new clients and conducting sales and all that kind of stuff. If you decide not to do it yourself, well, then you have to pay somebody to do it. So it's going to cost money. So that for sure. But I think at the same time, if you were to only run your business through Facebook, that's still going to have time or money associated with it too, because you still need to be active on Facebook to show that you're a real live business, that you're still active, that you're still getting out there and showcasing things. People don't like to go to websites that look like they're from 10 years ago. People don't like to go to Facebook pages where the last post was from 2014. So.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. Whenever I land on a site that hasn't been updated for the last 10 years, I'm like, what is this nonsense?
Yeah.
What is happening? And I remember when I was first, because I work primarily alongside the coaching industry in my profession. And I remember that one of the first things I did, I was doing some research and I found what they said was the top rated dating coach in Los Angeles. So, the first thing you kind of feel is you're like, oh, like, just from understanding that glimpse before you actually click into the website, you think, okay, she must be glamorous. She must have all this, money, because Los Angeles, like, you pay out the bum to live there kind of thing. So you're just like expecting this like class A experience. And then you click in, it's from 2008. And I'm just like, how the heck did that happen? A website is really a first impression of your business. So I would love for you to explain if you have any insider tips on how to really like make those first impressions be spectacular.
I think harking back to your comment about, the dating coach and going onto a website and it looks a lot older. I think majority of the time that's going to be off-putting. That being said, the counter to that is that if her target market is of an older crowd, is, maybe somebody who is now in their 50s, let's say, who isn't as influenced by, improvements to look and design, the function of the website, maybe it resonates a bit more with them because, the photo of her is a few years old and maybe looks a little dated, but hey, they look dated too because they're wearing sweaters from 1987. So I think that in and of itself plays a huge role in the first impressions on a website, is just how it relates to the customer. So when somebody goes onto your website, and I think you see this a lot with business coaches in particular, because they really try to showcase themselves in light of what their customers are looking for. So if you are coaching predominantly female entrepreneurs, things like that, what you'll see is websites that are a lot more feminine. So they're using typically whites and pinks, maybe creams, those types of things, logos that are cursive, script fonts, things like that. So when you go on, within the first 3 or 4 seconds of somebody looking at your website, it's already starting to resonate with you, whether or not that's in a good way or in a bad way. Because if you go into a website and it's for a coach that predominantly deals with women between the ages of 25 and 45, and you're a man in your 60s, all of a sudden that color scheme, the fonts that are chosen, even the first few words that you might read don't resonate with you and you leave. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And I want people who are listening to really understand that. You will not appease everybody who looks at your website, and nor should you, because if you cast that wide of a net, you're not going to bring in any customers, because there's not enough of a connection with you that they say, wow, this person is like me in this way, or this service provider is, dealing with clients which are very similar to myself, and they feel that connection. If it's so generic, people end up just leaving because they don't have that immediate first impression that really catches them and brings them on board. So when we're talking about like from a kind of not technical, but from like a design perspective, of course, there's always the things like making sure that you have a nice bold statement that resonates with the person who's on your website right away, so they're not having to comb through text, because the reality is people don't comb through text. Don't put 5 paragraphs of text on your homepage. People aren't going to read it. Pictures are always great. Video is really making an increase usage on websites, things like that, explainer videos, even videos if you're selling yourself as like a service provider, saying hi to your clients and introducing yourself is always a nice way to grab the attention and really make that great first impression. So
amazing. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm being brought back to when, my first year of, maybe not my first year. It took me a really long time to build my website. I built it myself. I built it with Divi Builder, which I was told was going to be so friendly. I've mastered it now, but it took about a year and a half to do so. And I'm pretty technically inclined. So anyways, but the one thing for me, when I'm thinking back there, I was like, and the really driving force for why I wanted a website so bad, because I was okay. My business, I was more of working in my business, or what is it? Working in my business, but not on my business. So I was working for my clients, but I wasn't working on propelling my business.
Mm-hmm.
But I was okay with that because I was getting referrals. I ended up in a really great circle of entrepreneurs that needed me for telesummits, which is like a list building strategy for all my audience out there that don't know what that is. So I was really set. But the reality is like I knew that this wasn't what I was going to do for the rest of my life, where like doing the project management for summits, because it was fun, but it wasn't that stimulating. It was pretty monotonous. But it was the drive to stand out from my competitors, you know. So that is like one plus about having a website. So, you know, when it comes to the end of the day, you're an online entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
What to you like website designer? I know, take the website designer part out of it. What's the line for you? Do you say yes, get a website, or do you say if you want to?
I think with the ease and the cost that things are these days, to me, it's kind of like, oh, why not? That you could have, and I know that you mentioned that it took you a while to get used to Divi and things like that. It's so easy to get a domain, to purchase hosting, and to get a one-page website up and running, that there really is no barrier to entry. So, you know, as far as time or money is concerned, it's so minimal compared to so many other things that you can be doing in your business, yet it can have such an impact. So totally. I say do it.
Amazing. And you know, I like to just use myself as an example, but you know, when I finally did release that website a year and a half later, my business grew so much. I actually had 2 clients reach out to me that were like, oh, like insert swear word here. I need to pay you more now? Because they saw like all the hard work that I did, and they saw that I was actually, you know, I was very meticulous in what I did. I took some copywriting classes. I had a copywriter look over it. Like I made sure it was like my dream website, which I'm a perfectionist. I'm not the model to follow, believe me. You can definitely like those themes out there that are like those one-page beautiful themes or Squarespace or whatever that are much easier to use. But, you know, I always look back and think like it was a struggle for me getting that website up and running, but I'm so happy I did. And a lot of it, I mean, at least out of my colleagues, when they're like, oh, the website, it's just, they're just not prioritizing it. It's not that they don't see a need for it. They've just decided to prioritize other things. So yeah, anywho, thank you so much for chatting to me about this. And hopefully this gives some great insight for our audience members that are still mulling it over if they want to, you know, start a website or not, or build a website or not. Mm-hmm. But I know you have some really wonderful, I don't even know what they're called, coupon codes for our audience listeners. So I'll hand it over to you and you kind of can tell what you're offering.
Sure. So part of my product and service offering is kind of twofold. So I have pre-built items. So I do a bit of branding and stuff too. So you can buy pre-designed logos and things like that. But I have a small collection right now of pre-built websites. And really what those are websites where you would buy the hosting and you would buy the license for the theme. And then I set everything up for you based on a predefined look and feel, right? So the themes range from kind of larger one-page sites all the way through to like a 5 or 6 page site with a blog and all that kind of thing. So there's already a look and feel to it. We would swap out your colors and your logo to make it applicable for you and your business. And those are a fixed price. And then I also offer web design services, which are, you know, what you're probably used to hearing about, where we would have a consultation session and we determine what you need for your business, what you want, what kind of features you need on your website, ultimately how you want it designed from an aesthetic perspective, and then everything is built custom for you. And those prices can range, obviously, because the type of website and the scope is going to be different depending on the person. But regardless, if people are interested in connecting with me and getting a website built for themselves, as opposed to doing it themselves, you can head on over. My website is ericalerman.com, and the code, which Amy will pop up in the show notes as well, is going to be virtually free 20. So you get 20% off either the pre-built websites or the custom designed websites until the end of August. And I believe there are 31 days in August, so August 31st.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
So as I like to end all of the shows like this, I would love it if you would leave the audience members with some valuable words of wisdom.
Valuable words of wisdom. Oh. I feel like I'm in like a job interview when people like ask you these questions and you're like, need to come up with some magical answer. So I think this is applicable to websites, but I think it's also can be applied to various aspects in your business, which is don't wait until something is 100% done before you launch it. Of course, you want the pages up on your website. You need, the copy that you have up there to convey what you do in your business. But if not every single button is aligned, or, maybe you need to add another page down the road, don't wait to launch your business. And I've dealt with a couple clients that are in this boat, that they need it to be perfect. And what ends up happening is that you could waste months, years,
year and a half
of potential income generation, right? From that. So take what you have, launch at 80%. Websites are never 100% done anyways. So launch it, be happy with it, iterate, move on, change it, add to it, whatever you need to do, but just get it up there.